Welcome to a special edition of In Pursuit 360. My name's Greg. This is a special edition for Facebook, for all of my friends and family out there, my actual blood family and my law enforcement family. So I'm making these videos on YouTube in order to share my 21 years of experience with anybody out there that is either interested in a career in law enforcement or is interested in furthering their career in law enforcement, or just anybody that wants to know about law enforcement in general. So why do police officers make traffic stops? I answer that question. I already have a video out on that. So of course we all know we make traffic stops, one, to change the behavior of the motoring public to make them safer, and two, we also make traffic stops to try to prevent crime. Creates high visibility. Also, you don't know who's driving around with what they've got in their car, or what they may have just done, or what they're getting ready to do. Small sample for you. What if you're looking to get into law enforcement? If you all know somebody that's looking to get into law enforcement, please share my channel with them, because they're going to understand the differences between the different types of agencies that are out there. So you've got state, local, county, federal, and each one of the agencies that are out there in all of these categories have certain benefits, pros and cons, if you will. Then we'll get into the application process, how to fill out an application, how to create a resume that is going to make them more sellable to the agency. We'll talk about the interview process. We'll run through some mock questions during an interview. Polygraphs. Anybody out there nervous about taking polygraphs? I was. I actually missed out on a department because I was paranoid about taking the polygraph test. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the psychological test. We'll talk about physical agility testing. And then we'll talk about the academy and the field training program, or the field training process. Those of you out there that know me, 21 years professional law enforcement. Started off at the Stafford County Sheriff's Office as an auxiliary, or they call them special deputies. So I was a volunteer for 2 years, got hired full-time to the road. 2 years became an FTO, 3 years became a general instructor. Then after 5 years I became a sergeant. A year later I was a first sergeant. I was a first sergeant for 5 years, leading the evening shift. I also led the bike patrol. I led the Marine patrol at the Sheriff's Office. I was the night shift commander during the DC sniper incident. I was the night shift commander during Hurricane Isabel. And then when I went to the Pentagon Police, I was there for a year as an officer and then became a sergeant after a year. I was an admin sergeant and then ended up becoming the field training and evaluation program commander for my last 3 years there. So I developed a whole new program there for the field training program. Hired 18 brand new FTOs, trained them, created an in-house FTO training school to train up all the FTOs to make sure that they were using the right philosophies and ideas and training the new officers that were coming on board. I turned a 4-week program into a 6 to 8 week program. Still doesn't sound like a lot of time, but for the Pentagon it was okay. I would have preferred 8 to 10 weeks, but that's about where we got. So I have a lot of experience in various things within law enforcement that I want to share with the people. So if somebody's looking to get into law enforcement, I think I'm in a good position to help them with knowledge that they would need in order to become a law enforcement officer and make sure they understand what they're really getting into. It's not like what you see on TV. Those of you that know out there, or that I know, you know that that's not the deal. And if you're in law enforcement, you want to become a supervisor. I made sergeant and first sergeant with the Sheriff's Office, and I made sergeant and field training commander with the Pentagon Police. So I think I might be able to give you some ideas on what they're looking for in supervision and how to handle those interviews, how to write your cover letter or your interest letter, and how to handle yourself during the interview and the types of things that they're going to be looking for as a leader. They're not really looking just for a supervisor. They don't want just a manager. They want leaders. Law enforcement agencies are desperately in need of leaders. And there's a huge difference, right? We manage things and processes, and then we lead people. They're looking for leaders. I can help you get there. And if you have a family member or a friend that's just interested in law enforcement, why do they do what they do, and they ask you a lot of questions, point them over to my channel, right down there. It's down here somewhere. Point them over to me, and I'll cover topics that are just general law enforcement information. Just things that people might be curious about our profession and wonder why we do the things we do, or why we say the things we say. Why do we act the way we act? There's a lot that goes into our career that people on the outside don't really understand. One of the things, video that I've already made one about, is PTSD in law enforcement. It's a real thing. Up to 19% of law enforcement officers have symptoms of PTSD, and those are the ones that are reported. So my experience with the sheriff's office, and I think it's more the local city, county, state agencies that are probably more experienced with this. Some of the federal agencies get down into the nitty-gritty. Not many. Pentagon Police is primarily force protection. Capitol Police is primarily force protection. Every now and then they might run into an incident, but you all out there know it's the ones that are out on the street every day that are going to these domestics and malicious woundings and suicides and DOAs and rapes and that kind of thing. They're the ones that are seeing the dark side of society every single day. And I'll almost guarantee you that 19% probably should be more like 40 to 45% of law enforcement officers at some time during their career are experiencing some type of PTSD. And their families need to know this so that they can help them. And if you're one of my brothers and sisters that are currently in the badge, please make sure that you're talking to your family. You don't need to give them the grotesque details of the things that you've seen or had to do, but you need to let them know how you're feeling, what you're thinking. You do not have to be the tough guy or gal. So these are things that I like to share with the public so that they understand the world that we work in. It's not the world that civilians deal with every single day. It's different, and it's at times very violent, very scary. I always say that there's no way in the world I'd be a firefighter because I'd never run into a burning building. But it's kind of funny. I chose a profession. I'll run into a gunfight, and that's just what we have to do. So, we're kind of built that way in order to do this career, but people don't understand that doesn't mean that we have to be able to deal with everything that we see. So we're allowed to ask for help. So those are the kind of things I'd like to share with the public, and actually with my brothers and sisters out there still in the badge. We're allowed to ask for help. So these are the kind of things that I'd like to discuss here on In Pursuit 360 on my YouTube channel. Eventually I'd like to be able to make a few bucks at it. That'd be nice. But I can guarantee you this: never, ever on my channel will you ever have to pay to ask me a question. I saw a channel recently, they were doing a live stream, and the only questions they were answering were the ones that people paid for. I guess you can donate money and ask a question, and it pops up, and those are the only questions that were getting answered. I'll never do that to you. I will do my best to answer every question I get. And I will probably eventually end up setting up a Patreon channel that'll have some tiers in it. And if you're applying for a law enforcement agency, you sign up for one of those tiers, I'll give you personal help with your resume. I'll give you personal help filling out your application. I will FaceTime you, and we will go over scenario questions for your interview. So that's where I'm hoping to go. So to everybody out there, my Facebook friends and family, do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel down below. Subscribe. Hit the like button on the videos because that'll help the algorithm for YouTube to kind of boost me up in the searches. And pass my information on if you think the content is worthy, and I'm hoping you do. Pass it on to some friends. Pass it on to people you know that may be interested in a career or just what law enforcement does. And I will do everything I can to provide some good quality information for them. leave your comments down below. Have your friends leave their comments. If they have questions or anything, I will at least type out answers to comments, if not turn around and end up making a video based on questions that I get in the comments. So I appreciate you all being there for me for all these years. Now I want to be here for you and for your friends and your family and for our future law enforcement family and for everybody that's involved in law enforcement. So I appreciate it. Again, hit the subscribe button, smash that like button, that little thumbs up thing, hit the bell for notifications, and you all be careful out there and be safe.